Welcome to the Community Development Committee, and we'll do a quick roll call here. We'll start with Mitch.
Off the screen, Mitch Stone, Assistant Town Manager.
I'm Matt Powers, and I'm on the Town Council, and I'm the Community Chair at the moment. We have
John Quinn on the Town Council.
So today we're gonna discuss a few items, and I think the first one we'll wait and see if Dan comes to talk about our committee charge. But I think one of the things that the three of us, we should all just sit together. Let's move into this thing. Thanks to John.
Yeah, it seems like it.
You know what? Right.
See something. It's readjusting.
Who's got their quarter zip on? Quarter zip, quarter zip, quarter zip, quarter zip, four on zips, quarter zip.
Don't mind the diesel.
Yeah, is that the package of it?
Pardon?
Just
Yeah.
yeah, what is?
This one. How's that?
Okay, thank you.
There you go. We're good now.
Okay.
For anybody watching, sorry for the technical difficulties, but we're back at it.
Thanks. It's good shot. So I think there's two things we are gonna look at. One is to since we're gonna read over our charge.
Okay.
I'll read it out, just to say if it still fits what we think we're doing, and if we need to make any changes. So the Community Development Committee focuses on the development of the town as both an economic engine and a wonderful place to live and work. That and the committee is charged with development of a wide range of ordinances, as well as the development of plans, projects, and orders related to town economic development. Like it, we'll keep it then, right? So we've checked that off our list. They asked us to go over it. So I will let Amanda know that we're still tripping it. And Quinn. All right. So the other big issue I think that we're going to continue to run into, not run into, but the issue that we take some thought here is to how we're going to prioritize the Orono stop service. That's the city is now involved in figuring out ways to enhance our community by making it a safer place to drive on. I think we can't do everything all at once. No matter how important something is, we're going to have to prioritize to some extent taking care of these issues or trying to find solutions to the issues. And I think our objective right now, Dan has articulated this, and I agree with the things that maybe we start with a list and we start to compare maybe one or two, because that's all we can kind of do a year and start seeing progress. This list. Yes.
So yeah, we're thinking first, welcome John to the committee, first meeting. We're thinking about, particularly with the like a 5-year plan that we could align with these survey results and going through them and finding out how we want to sequence them and rank order them so that we have a 5-year plan that we can align with Orono's capital improvement plan and with the best thinking and guidance of staff in terms of when it makes sense to do things. Like it doesn't make sense if we're doing the $3.2 million DOT project in this part of town, the intersections here down the bridge. We have, for example, we passed an order directing the manager to improve pedestrian safety at the Oak Street intersection where Marsh Island is, and the access to the Stillwater Trail, because that's just nasty. People are coming up the hill, coming over the bridge, up the hill, and then we can move on to, make a left turn in on Mill Street. You've got 3 or 4 different access points from, you've got the Marsh Island, you've got the Oak Street, and you've got the river trail, and then you've got and then you have the Damon's Beverage, that parking lot, curb cuts. So you've got all those curb cuts there, and it's just it's a lot of confusion. So, but
And a sideways crosswalk, which at one time was probably a good idea.
Yeah.
Now it's starting to
dark is the devil's heart.
they're starting to
Yeah.
like think that maybe straight so that the pedestrians less
Yeah.
less time in a crossing.
And you've got the curb cut at the bottom of the credit union. So,
Makes it very true.
but then, so how do we make that? We asked the manager to do that. We had a council order that we passed. And now but you need to sequence it in a way that makes sense too, right? It doesn't make sense to do that. It should be done. It would make sense, I would imagine, to do that as part of the work that's being done in the downtown already.
This $3 million grant.
Yeah.
We're looking into very much.
Well, $3 million CDS funding that's already been allocated, that project is already in underway for that area.
And that's utilizing kind of the existing plan.
Yeah, that was done with the Route 2 corridor.
So
Calling a plan.
So some of these improvements and projects that are naturally built into, at least what the initial.
Yes.
right. Yep.
And it just as a salvo across the bow, just that we're in limbo as to the big route to the project.
Yes.
Yep. With that, we're gonna be doing more information out to speaking. Okay, we don't know how to say that, but I think it's a way to.
So I think a really good outcome for us would be, continue to interface with staff around how they're managing initiatives like the Main Street traffic, calming the quintile, 25 mph on Main Street, around or the Westwood intersection coming, in and out of town, but then also, I think that's one thing. The second thing is developing a 5-year plan in terms of working with staff. I think staff ends up leading a lot of it, but we provide some kind of direction, thought, policy perspective on taking the survey, and this survey is not the gospel of Orono. We had 73 responses, and at least 3 of them made. So, yeah. Andy Power has done it a couple times. So I think this is a really good starting point, but I would like to see us, what are the if we did 2 or 3 a year over 5, if we don't order it and plan for it, we're not gonna get, occasionally we'll throw up a blinky light at Westwood. Maybe we'll throw a crosswalk in front of, the Alphonse Stadium, something like that. But if we order it, we're gonna get a lot more done.
Yeah.
And have a system,
This is what I was gonna ask you guys. Does it make sense more for us to come to a consensus on like as a group as to how we order this, or should there be more objective, like rubric that we point system, or is that too maybe causes more confusion and issues that it's I don't know about you. It's like if we need the maybe came up with some sort of script where you're like you get one means of this section of the road that's been done more than 3 times. You get, does that make sense to you? So this is how I would go about it, but the world that I came from, but I also understand that isn't necessarily the best, fastest, or necessarily flexible enough ways to weigh it. So I just wondering how you guys feel about that.
Can we first agree that our task is to take survey results, put it into a 5-year
Yes,
plan.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I guess I have a question about like. When we talk about a 5-year plan, we're talking about. And this is me coming into the beginning with like questions about the function.
Sure.
Are we like 5-year plan? Doing these things, or is this like, okay, here's our last stop on this thing. So that we can pass that on to. Have that work be done. Have like have a process or so that the focus on like the next thing.
I think it's ultimately to incorporate it as an attachment or addendum to the capital plan.
So I think the question was asking is. How does the information that goes here move forward? Right, remember we talked about this, is that, so your job is to study this, the council decided that this, they want to study this as a whole and try to figure out as a whole if it comes here. So you guys would come up with whatever it is you think you're recommending back to the council. The council will then work through that process to decide, is that the right course of action? Do we want to go back to it more study, whatever that would be? And then from there may be an order, there may be lots of different things that come out of it, but ultimately your direction or what you come up with here goes back as a recommendation to the full council to decide the next steps, if that makes sense. I think the other thing that I don't, process wise, I don't know where this would look, but also understanding that these have been documented from people that have concerns, right? The idea was concerns. I think it would also behoove us to make sure that some of this might be, the first thing is vetting every one of these things to say, do we have an issue? Let's get some data that, other ways to look at this to say, yep, okay, we have an issue there, and what is the issue? Because part of the challenge is when you say, give us your concerns, and they say, we need a light here. Okay, well, why do we need a light? Versus because maybe it could be handled in a different way and that sort of thing. So trying to understand what exactly is the issue and is there data to support that so that we're not not putting money at something that isn't an issue or could be dealt with in maybe a different way, right? So some of this may be here's our prioritization over a 5-year time. I think we would like to start by doing some research on these 3 things to see, is there an issue? What is the budget around, because I think there's so many factors to say, I think we've thrown this around a little bit. If you were talking about repaving, shaving down a road and, adding in bike paths, there's a cost and there's a time associated with that. So it may be on the plan as the most important. It take 5 years to do it, right?
Yeah.
Versus this thing here, which is, I think you should remove that crosswalk because it's dangerous. It may be a low priority, but it may be an easy.
No, and that's, I was thinking about the breaks, because sometimes it's, you attack the things that can be attacked quickly.
Yeah.
Get them out of the way, and that's what I was thinking, how would we score these? Some things are just, say, either a little bit of pain or take pain off, just let it go away.
Yeah.
Take away its signs, so
And following that, then everything here, I mean, it makes sense to have like. These things are actionable, these things we can ask and expect, them to be part of an implementable work plan, in 2026 construction year. These things need more understanding. And those are things we're gonna have to study, with your 2, 3, 4 years 2 and 3, and then years 4 and 5 are.
So could it make sense for this group to come up with a prioritization?
that is exactly what we're.
And then maybe the first recommendation back to council is, we would like staff to study this prioritization. And come up with what, let's go through the list and figure out what are things that we could do in 5 minutes? What are things that need a study? Or it might take 5 years, but we might need the 5 years to do it. So it's not like it's not happening. It just takes that long to get.
Yeah.
Right. So
Like the rail crossing thing.
Right.
That's part of the comprehensive plan.
Right.
And that's a year
Yeah.
5 to 10 of the
Right.
comprehensive plan.
Right, and so I think those are the pieces that I think probably the easiest thing, so that you don't get into trying to figure out, well, this will be easy, because some of these, you
Yeah.
might even know what the fix is, right?
Yeah.
So let's not worry about the fix, but let's worry about
Priority.
the prioritization of the concern.
Okay, if it works. So our next meeting, is gonna, so that we can, it's gonna be January 21st. January 21st at 2026
At 10 a.m.
at 10 a.m. So does it make more sense for us to come in, each of us pour over this and think of how we would prioritize it? We come in with 3 different ideas for prioritization. The 3 of us were here, and then we hash out how we could come in. I could use my methodology, you could use your methodology, and Dan use his methodology in a way, and come back with a prioritization list and these things, why the 3 of us come to a consensus is how we got to that, like what makes more sense with a master prioritization list, especially within like a 5-year, and then we can, does that make sense, Dan? Or because I would do it different than you guys probably, but that doesn't mean it's better or worse, and so I think sometimes it's good to have the ideas on how we prioritize this, and we come in and we build a consensus around,
Do we want to
right, or we can just do it,
what else do we have on our?
we don't have anything else. Or we can just sit here, so it's fine with me.
Yeah, and I think just in terms of like that next step, how it gets presented forward, with consensus to have that, so and I don't know what you guys, I don't have. Didn't grab a engine, right? So like that, this is our vision of this, but maybe some like specific outcomes that. You know, at that final step of like, okay, the staff is looking at this. Some outcomes that we might hope for, which is like. It got looked at and it's as good as it can be given the circumstances, or these are the changes that are going to be implemented immediately, if these are. You know, just to kind of get some of that feedback back on that list. Rather than us saying like, this is the thing that happens in year 1, this is the thing.
No,
Yeah, I think-
I agree, staff has to do that, we can say this is our priority.
1 star, this is
And I think it's about, the prioritization is about giving staff direction at where to start.
Right.
Right, so it may be very well, we, and I don't. This on Forest Ave, well, we know we've already looked at that, we actually already have data, blah, blah, blah. This one is number 1, and okay, we've looked at those things and we're feeling like this can be done reasonably easy, here it is, okay, fine. We've not looked at this at all, it's your second priority, so the first bit of this may be planning to figure out what to do, right? Is that, and then when we give you all that information, you go back, and it could be, look, it's gonna take us a year to look at the first 5 things on the list to determine, just prioritize, to determine what we need to do. I don't work in public works, nor do I know whether we need to hire a traffic, transportation engineer, or whether we don't for some of these things, what they're. There's a lot of factors, but I think the first step is giving us guidance of where do we start? And then letting us go through that process. And it may be some timelines, and we can work with Clint department heads to figure out, was this a 6-month project? Is this a 3-month project? Is this a 1-month project with then setting new goals?
And from a public process perspective, making sure, this is about, Orono stops, about building a culture of roadway sharing and safety. And there's 3 components to it, there's enforcement, there's education, there's infrastructure. And I think that we want to be able to show, build political capital, political will, we want to be able to show momentum.
Right.
We can point, okay, how long do we get to point to the Westwood Boogie Light as an accomplishment? And so celebrate that, right? And I think we're kind of running to the end.
Right.
And pretty soon, Cody's gonna be firing out stuff about, 0 tolerance or speeding over, whatever the message is gonna be. So, there's that. When people see stuff popping up on this $3.2 million project, that's not gonna be There's not gonna be shovels on the ground on that this year, then what's that, the 3.2 million?
The three.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
still
no,
working
it's-
on, they're working on, and I don't, but they are now working on, engineering and right of way stuff, so.
Won't be no shovels in the ground, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there'll be no visual impact, but I know, this is not,
Start right after. Pipes.
so sewer line is gonna slow everybody down for a while, but. So there's no, the 3.2 is not, so we gotta, I think we need to have some things that are tangible.
Probably fits within that 5 year.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think we need to have some things in place, this summer. That people will see happening during the construction season that makes sense.
And some of those could be. As we work through this, and I'm spitballing here, but some of these could be almost like temporary.
Yeah.
Works that get you to that project being done.
So, like, for an example, I could see us doing even if it's just a temporary sign, I know it's hard to put out there, so Public Works may have to actually put a bed out for that temporary sign. That shows the speed limits wherever it is we decide we want to do it on Stillwater Avenue, because that is an issue. And it's been raised.
So-
Does that make sense? So that
So
we
what
can see
I-
around
right.
that corner,
So what I'm suggesting is,
right?
I'm gonna do this and call me Uncle Mitch all at once, but doing that. I think you need to prioritize, and then we can figure out what the best way, what's time, right? Because I think we'll get caught up in trying to figure out what the right solution is. And we don't.
No, you're right, you're absolutely right, bringing us back to the priority, but so a priority something. But I mean, I agree with you, it'd be great to have shovels on the ground, but also I think it, like reiterating or exhausting, and this is what happened was also a good factor.
We can,
So I'm not limiting it to just like infrastructure change.
you wanna. This is kind of broken down nicely by, like. Parts of town and we could, I think it would be helpful to kind of go through it block by block, see what really stands out.
Yeah.
I think. I do think we wanna be mindful of spreading the love around, we have had out of forest, outer Stillwater.
Yeah.
Is, we've been doing, a lot of our folks to kind of where we can walk our dogs and ride our bikes. There, we have a lot of residents, that part of, those parts of Orono as well.
Yeah.
Feel like it's their turn, they're lost.
Yeah.
But do you wanna kind of go through these road by road and see which stands out as things that are, some of the stuff we cross off is probably not actually doable. I don't know if there's a suggestion for a third interstate access directly to the university. I don't know if that's one of them or not, but we're not gonna get that.
The Sky Bridge straight from
Yeah.
to Stillwater, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think the other thing is identifying the problem, not the solution.
Right,
Because I think that's the other challenge, I was saying that earlier, is that somebody puts down, we need a traffic lane here. Well, what is the issue that is causing you to need the traffic? lane? And are there other ways so how do we solve the problem, not?
alright, so Bennett Road, you wanna talk about those first?
Yeah, the speeders is always gonna be an issue, it's the same problem on Bennett Road that is or was on Forest Avenue, it's just a very similar.
Can I just say there's a total overall in all these, I think you'll find speeding, most of them.
Yep.
And my question for you is, are we not addressing speeding? Trying to address speeding through the initiative that we're working on. We focused areas, but I think that is gonna be that's not an infrastructure thing.
Yeah.
That's a enforcement, could be infrastructure too, but enforcement arm with a short-term thing and trying to figure out, I mean, I think. That might be an easier way to say, okay, we have speeding and we're gonna put it in this thing, and that's an overall town. Goal is to reduce speeding.
Well, let's do Bennett and just kind of, just 6, 5 of them here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it's clearly speeding,
The intersection.
Yeah.
speeding in the forest,
Speed intersection,
main intersection.
which falls pretty firmly with that. Route 2
Yeah,
project.
I would say,
In the long.
yeah. So I would say that that intersection is a CDS, it was a CDS issue.
Where's that? Yes.
But not. So that's a CDS issue, speeding.
I think that also, that's Broadway, are you on Bannock, are you on Bannock?
No, I'm still on back, okay, let's just talk about speeding. 35-mile-an-hour zone and clear stuff. We have, I think we're gonna run into this, is there a there are opportunities for speed enforcement on Bannock? In terms of. Yeah, I think one of the issues on Stillwater that people identified is there's nowhere for a police officer to park. I assume that's not the case with Bannock. But we can do enforcement on Bannock.
Once again, I think that's a question of, we're taking, I don't know, I've not confirmed that we cannot sit on anywhere and do speed enforcement, so I think that would be a, Chief Merrill.
Yeah.
We want to enforce speed on Bannock Road and allow.
Alright, so on Bannock. Speeding generally. And Forest Avenue main speeding percentage. Okay. Broadway. So this is stuff that Chad Eddy has brought to us and.
It's been inconsistent, feel like inconsistent in sparking. Yeah, people do, they get past, they get on the water, yeah, they get on the Water Street and take it off sometimes.
Are you, what street are you on? You're on.
I'm on Bill, but like right
Yeah.
before.
I definitely think that's a. Priority item, but is it an item that. Well, I guess I don't know if there's other stuff. Broadway.
The only other thing,
Broadway
Broadway has said is speeding and then the Broadway Water Street intersection, sharp corner, full visibility, pedestrians.
Yeah. Is there anything on Mill Street that? There are, I mean, people have concerns on Pine Street.
Okay, big problem.
Yeah, the top end is a whole.
Yeah. That would be, I don't think this is something that there's no Mill Street.
Yeah, we don't know those street days between paths, pizza, going for
There's a big routine on section happens.
Yeah. So Broadway top end, you have the corner. Broadway, Water Street corner. So the Water Street up to Chad's house, then it bends around and there's Broadway.
Water Street and Broadway.
cheap at the corner.
Yeah. The 90-degree station had.
And it goes from mill to water,
Right,
so kind of.
and there's like a little. It's not much of a.
I would put Pine Street speed on the list.
Yeah, I mean, and I think they have similar issues, which is just two. Really straight, really wide roads.
Yep.
Okay. With no. Barrier between the road and sidewalk, which is. So it's something that we can say a lot, all of these roads. In terms of the.
Yeah, apologize. I get, well, I just want, before we leave the top end, I wanna say, I wanna do something in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
In terms of conversation, yeah, these are some ideas we have.
Right.
Yeah, just like, I mean, I think the Forest Avenue. Neighbors came together in a good process 3 years ago to identify an opportunity, and I think. People who live on the street participated in that, feel some ownership of that result, that, what was accomplished, and I think that's always a good win. For a process, alright, College Ave.
Just another one, I mean,
And I've heard it verbally from a lot of college students. So, they never saw this and never put this out. I've heard from multiple college students about not being particularly safe cycling along the west section. Should have been safer. On a lot of other roads.
Yeah, should always jump on the.
Famous ones that I ride on. I'm not, I don't do a lot.
So speed, pedestrians, crossings.
This is what I was.
I think there was a mention in there of parking as well, or like specifically around. I think the wording was like. When the church has services, or if there's an event going on to the west side of the. Parking spills out onto the street, if it is. Fine for that to happen, that's the ability to cross for people attending those events, and I saw that something. Does seem like an obvious place to, I think this is good because of. I'll dip briefly into the weeds, but it seems like an obvious place to. Think about like alternative transportation structure. So, run with the road. Yeah.
So what, runway road?
Yeah.
It's so wide.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a 55-mile-an-hour road anywhere.
Right, yeah.
Right.
So I think that's an alternative truck route. But it may, I think that it was there originally built so wide because the trucks were going to the hill. They were getting off the exit, going down there to the hill. You know, that's part of the reason why it was built so wide. I don't quote me on that, but I think I remember. But those are, that's why it was built that way, not.
Right, yeah.
And certainly, there's a lot of room there to be able to do stuff, so, you know, that.
I think that's one of those that could be a really cool project if we had resource.
Alright, so. Crosby, this is alright, so we gave kind of a top end talk, you wanna do a little. Webster side talk?
Students. Here's a good one.
I can see one thing, well,
It actually looks like there wasn't, sorry, it just looks like there wasn't the one. They were cleaning out a couple of things on. Those middle streets necessarily on this survey.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, I agree. But,
so, I mean. I know we're not supposed to come up with solutions. But I do, do wonder about the Main Street. It's always gonna be the North Main Street to Main Street, such a. Sort of always an issue. It's just special.
pulling off the bridge.
yeah,
So.
it's a tough left hand turn.
Sort of issue that I've heard about. I have an issue with myself.
Yeah,
What are the issues? See,
It's just a very tough left hand turn.
Yeah.
There's a left out.
to meaning getting out into traffic because there's traffic.
Yeah.
And it's just getting hard.
I think
I feel like.
higher speed coming down both hills.
Yeah.
That's a historic issue. we have those crosswalks that we can certainly help. And the one that we're already here on the street. Saying. Like the bridge there, is, if it's not on this list, I don't know how people ever talk about it. Like you suggest.
No, it's all, I can see why people drive to the neighborhood, the end of Crosby by the baseball park, by Park.
I think I should put this.
Yeah, oh,
Pedestrian bridge, we walk under the bridge, yeah, no, I don't. And then you can walk under. Walk on either side instead of walking over Main Street, have a path that everything goes down. Do a lot of things. That's it. That's I think. I'll keep going.
there's definitely room for, the challenge, I think some of the challenge, I spent a lot of time in Western neighborhood. Walking, biking, it's how I get to the university on my butt, I always go up across the bridge from Webster to get up to the university and. Or wherever I'm going, that's out of town. And it's those outlier. Drivers who are just zipping through and turning into the Crosby Street Expressway to get around the light on Main Park. And come out of the ball field to the right or.
Do you think it's infrastructure or driver behavior?
I think it's infrastructure. I mean, I think.
Do you think there are, what I mean by that is that, do you think that you just commented that a lot of these outlier driving habits,
Yeah.
poor driving habits, which are forcible versus infrastructure. So maybe that's a.
I think infrastructure wins every time. I don't think we have enough enforcement capacity.
I'm gonna
Change behaviors.
So I'm gonna say this.
Yeah.
Study shows. Enforcement doesn't actually.
Says enforcement doesn't? No, that's why I say I think.
It will, I mean, yes, people will slow down in certain areas if they know that's a typical place that people know. But trying to figure out what that feels like. Now, I think where enforcement works well is when the infrastructure is reasonable, okay? And you enforce the speeds there, people will go, okay. And you could do it in a neighborhood, right? Like, if we started pulling people over to the Webster neighborhood, everybody's gonna go slow in Webster. Yeah, I mean, I think that might help that. It's the combination of all these things.
Yeah, I do think conversation with the Webster neighborhood, but I mean, there are at some point in history. Oak Street was with a two-way street. I don't know if that was like the lateral, or I think it was a one-way street thing happened, but at some point that type of thing happened. I don't know if the community wanted it and had an input. But I'm just saying there are all sorts of solutions. I'm not saying that's a solution to Webster, but it'd be interesting to see what people's tolerance is for different traffic flow.
Well, and once again,
I change infrastructure, they just change signs.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's important for this is that. Understanding what the problem is before we get to the community about, because we know, if we put it out there, they're gonna tell you their issues, right? And unfortunately, part of the challenge is they come up with lots of solutions that are hard to understand.
Maybe one of the approaches is to feel like forest is okay right now, like lower forest is okay right now. Maybe what we do is, as part of our plan, our 5-year plan, schedule a conversation. I would suggest we do the tough end first. And have a conversation, like in 2026, we have a conversation about traffic challenges in the tough end, what we want to see, and then 2027, a commitment to roll in changes in 2027 structure year. And then the next year we do Webster, and then.
Yeah. I would there, I think that would be great.
Yeah.
They are about, Middle Street, develop 30 small park cars that come with that.
Yeah.
Is gonna be coming online eventually after that conversation takes place, and I have some. Impact on it.
Oh, we can preface it too, that people will be concerned about it.
Yeah.
And it could, if we said, all right, in March, this committee, you know, I'm just spitballing. You said in March, this committee's gonna hold a meeting, tough end meeting. Talk about traffic stuff, and then we're gonna roll it into it.
I worry a little bit about that from like, does this become? Traffic, like, there's a lot of neighborhoods, that's like potentially half a year of. Community development communities. That are just focused on this one thing. Does that leave off? As we're like also looking at the. Comprehensive plan implementation also, I think, does that leave off? Or take space that money also go places that.
It does make sense.
Yeah.
I do think though that if we don't dig in and like a tip, you know, and we don't dig in on something, you don't get stuff done. It's the work, like last year, this committee took on. Promise I haven't played that in the point here, we did this before.
Sure, that's all good.
Not very often, but we, you know, we spent 3 months kind of talking about noise ordinances and stuff like that in this structure. And a meeting a month with, you know,
Doesn't.
this is not, and then we had this incident, the follow-up incident in the Webster neighborhood, slated the Good Neighbor Committee, and that was a weekly, just intense kind of public process, but it led to an outcome. Because we had that intensity and that kind of urgency to get it done.
And the geezers and steamers on Friday, a couple of them said how. What an impact it's going to be working centers. Sleeping.
Oh, great.
Yeah, there was a nice article.
The users, yeah, great. Yeah, that's what, yeah,
That's what.
so and I think about it, we did, and I think if we did it, we'd have to do, maybe it's
6 feet.
maybe it's, maybe it's 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks where we ask people to come in and talk for it, get it done.
So I would make a suggestion that that's the direction you want to go. You know, that you're identifying where the areas of which there seems to be concern, and then you're going to have a meeting. I would do that before you prioritize it.
I do too.
So I think
We
maybe-
get off the list.
maybe at this point, you're not prioritized, but we've kind of moved into a different direction here with what we've just discussed, but maybe we are having. If that's what you want to do, you're having meetings to prioritize, to figure out what the concerns are in each neighborhood, so that then you can prioritize what you feel needs to be done. Not the other way around, here are our priorities, and now we're gonna go up and ask. Because you might go into these neighborhoods that only have 3 or 4 comments on this, and all of a sudden find out that. You know, there's a big issue, they're gonna bring a big issue. And my hunch is, you're gonna hear a lot more issues than you already have. Yeah, because you're gonna ask. And when you ask, people will come and tell you.
Yeah.
So
I think one thing I don't want to forget about is the outer forest as a state.
Right.
I do think. You're right that we should have some sort of focus on that at some point, and whether it is. We let them know that we're working on an area, or that we have. Some sort of same type of meeting, I do think is important, we'll see that. Yeah, so whatever, however we approach it, whether we say, okay, here's the issues, and I know. Everybody is worried about Taylor Road. To forest, right, and that's something that would be a priority that we've done. At some, or asked to see what the solutions are this year, like, is there a way to sign, like on 3rd Street in Bangor, 3rd Street. Off street where it tells you what cars are coming. Yeah.
But what I'm hearing right now is.
Right.
We're starting with a prioritization, which is
Right.
fine, then we had this idea that we wanted to get input. Is it a hybrid?
Yeah.
Is it look, there's we're seeing a lot of things here and we don't know exactly what to pinpoint until we talk to people, and then we see issues that are very specific.
Yeah.
And I do think so, like.
So
the-
maybe there's a,
The Vena,
it's that.
yeah, and I see like the Vena. Most of like the Vena forest, road complaints are an issue that is long-standing and will have to be addressed by serious infrastructure probably. And we're going forward, although maybe there's some. Making it a little bit better, but I see that as something that is like in the plans already. In a way. Whereas some of these other things are kind of outside of that. That aren't in the plans. I don't know. They don't have to decide, but just make a plan, just. Get more input or do a hybrid, I think the hybrid, but saying. I think some of this we could. Ask for solutions to. Whereas other things we find just.
Yeah. I'd like to let the community, I'd like to let the neighborhoods have to craft it, be in a conversation about what, clearly identifiable neighborhoods, but I think there's like Taylor Road exit that needs to be the Taylor Road intersection. I don't know, speeding on Forest Ave and speeding on Stillwater are huge concerns. And is that I don't know how to get at the I don't know if the infrastructure is out there.
Rural roads, it's hard. Especially how it slopes out, it's really.
Yeah.
With distances between houses and, and it being a state road, make that. A little bit of a challenge.
Those state roads are limits to what we can just throw a bunch of.
Right.
Where to speak, does it become a town road somewhere? Like,
No.
so we're able to get the speed bumps out the.
Yep. But once again, I mean, I think you're talking about a rural road that's gonna have a speed limit of 45 miles.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, it's different. When you are in the 35 to 25 range doing a speed bump, but once again, I think there are, I mean, we can certainly, if that's a place that you're looking for, what you're asking for is, what are the alternatives? What is, if speeding is the issue, how do we attack speeding? In a rural? I think that's something we go back and look at.
Yeah, and I think that's something you ask staff to.
Yeah.
You're gonna know, staff will have to know, or they would know these things with the main DOT.
Right.
But come back with a speed reduction plan for outer forest and Stillwater.
Well, maybe it's coming back with, here are options. And through uses in other places, this is what the likelihood of success are, and if there's a monetary amount attached to those things.
Yeah, but we're willing to spend.
Right.
$40,000 a year to have. Yes, enforcement initiatives.
Right.
There. I think people who live in Stillwater, Forest are. Do you want to take some time and we can't do it, it's hard to we can't reach decisions via by email, but we could develop, one of us could draft up like a project overview that has the and include Mitch on it, of course. One of us could take a first crack and draft or something. And then we could get feedback independently by blind copy. One person owns the document, takes it back in.
What if you did some sort of spreadsheet and you had columns for each of you to put in what your thoughts were? And just had it be a shared document that you fill out, it's there, but you're not. You can just add the information to it.
That passes the FOIA, the sunshine.
Well, It's a good question.
We have to talk.
But I think if you're buying copy, you're actually doing
Yeah.
something, right? If I, you know, send it to everybody, but there's no response, it's not then you putting it in a thing with no response. I gotta check, I don't feel like that's. He's a good straight face on it.
Alright, we can bring our thoughts into it and then not make decisions on it. So like obviously we can't
Bring it back to the meeting in January that says, okay, here's the document that was created here. I mean, if you felt like it, you can do them separately.
Yeah.
You know, we can tally it, send them to me and I can tally it up if that felt better, but.
No, I don't know, let's do,
From the starting point where you mentioned, general area, maybe top 3 identified issues from survey.
I think so, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't think, you know, like, I think we kind of already did Bennett, you know, like, we talked about Bennett is.
Smaller.
Yeah, speeding generally and of course that then. If we're doing the hybrid thing, there's some element of, alright, how do we? What are your thoughts for having a conversation? Like where can we work with staff to identify opportunities based on what we've learned from the survey? So I think one of those things would be out of Forest Avenue and Stillwater speeding responses, so I think that's one thing. So where do we work, you know, who kind of takes the lead on the next step in that as staff? You know, we have to assign it to them through order, but we have to ask staff to come back with a plan for addressing. And then I think the committee would take the lead on, and we probably might have to ask the council to do this, or the committee may take the lead on these community conversations and in what order. I think top end first, probably. So just thinking out loud. Then sort of like the College Ave neighborhoods. That stretches those dead end streets, yeah.
Dead end streets.
Yeah, and then I think Webster's one, so there's 3, that's 3 years worth of work right there, that we just kind of created for ourselves. But and then the other thing I think is the longer, the 5-year elements of things to identify as from the survey.
And my suggestion is wrapping that up in a nice little plan that you then present council.
Yeah.
All of it on, not in, you know, yeah, we're gonna take this one, we're gonna take, so that way, because the other piece of that is if you come up with 3 things that you want in that plan that you want to start working on, it's gonna take time. So you don't have to hit on that every meeting. You can work on some of these other things while that's happening. And then it can be brought back and go from there. So that way, and you can do those meetings at the same time and get feedback and figure out how, you know, how you're gonna prioritize that once you get all the meetings done.
So if we put the spreadsheet together and we added our contributions to it, came back and kind of synthesized it at our January 21st meeting, we can do a presentation to council at February, the 1st February. In the presentation section, and I don't know if we'll have the order, anything we want to identify as an order coming out of that, but.
If we can, or presentation on an order to adopt, it would be in order to adopt the priority set.
Yeah,
Well, and you can see what you come out of
Yeah.
next meeting with, because it might be an order to say, we've identified these 3 things. Right now, we want you to, you know.
Right.
No, we want staff to start working on it, so we want there, but we're not sure because we want to have these meetings to figure out where the next priority, you know. So you're not hamstringing yourself to, well, this is the priority and I've said that I'm gonna do this, because ultimately you've talked about, I'm gonna meet with these people, but that doesn't prioritize what the project is on the plan. Right?
Right, so, but I think it would be a combination of, part of the priority is to set up these. It's a timeline, setup of the certain. If we feel that that's the most effective way to approach those things, that's a thing order,
it could be, yeah, at least,
a presentation of, or,
yeah, I agree. In the same meeting.
yeah, I mean, well. I don't know.
People don't like it, we table the, table the order, I mean, we like to have seems to be an interest in having presentations first, so we have kind of a broad reaching discussion, and if council has a willingness to move forward right away, great, then we just table it. So we better have a chance to act and not, and if we decide not to use it, then we just push it to the next meeting, but I think that's a good approach.
I think it's good. So let's plan on a document being set up. I can set it up, but I'm not, I don't mind keeping it pushed back.
Okay.
But you guys should feel free to change the setup of it too, because.
Well, that's what I wonder. Can we work on a shared doc? I think there's a difference between adding it.
Yeah, sure. I don't know if you can,
Like,
I would be concerned about us
That makes sense.
working on a shared document. Unless it was just two of them.
Do you even want to crack in a document, leave me out of it to go back to the.
Sure.
You're open to an email from me, just kind of a,
Yeah, please, could you?
I'll send you an
Of ideas.
yeah. And then you guys work on it together and get everything back in.
That's good.
Yeah.
Right, and then go.
You always keep.
If the document,
Yep.
if the document is actually like a living document that anybody can look at, then for sure. I always wonder that with like. If it's a public document that people can see us working on in real time, does that then?
Kind of letter of the law versus spirit of the law, right?
I don't know.
Well, the other thing that makes that difficult is giving access to everyone while you work on it.
It would be on the best of our company.
And it's, I don't know that we could do that on the website. So. I mean, yeah, I think the reality is that in most cases you would want two people to work, no more than two people on this thing to work on.
Alright, so
Something, and then realistically, what you're going to do once you've done that is present it back at this.
yep, on the 21st, in the open meeting. So just for deliverables, so by end of year, I'll send you guys an email. If that makes sense. So by 12/31.
How about, we will have a document to preview at least 1 week before the 21st.
Yep.
Which puts us at what? It's like
7/14.
So
So you guys have 2 weeks to work together on a document, and keep Mitch in the loop.
Yeah, sure, doc. And
January 21, we'll try to finalize it for a council presentation.
So for next meeting, as we're wrapping up our time here, for next meeting, the agenda would be that going to present document that's development plan or plan forward, prioritization plan forward.
Stuff. Safe. So that they. Two, and then it'll be one, so. Two, that's one. Two, I'll make sure we actually. We'll jump in this time, tell about that. Okay, then two would be, draft. Presentation. For best. So I'll take the sum of.
Okay.
So those will be the two priorities.
Okay. We'll manage the agenda stuff with next meeting and all that stuff. Okay, that works. Right,
Anything else?
we have an executive session item to.
I just asked, let's. This survey summary. Just so that we know, so this is the creation of that.
Yeah.
Is this the direct result question?
So-
Or are these just?
Yes, so those are summarized of, these are all the questions. So what you have there is a summary, and Cody just went through and try to make it there, and that those are impressions. And I will send you those electronically.
Yeah, I just put one up here.
I don't know if we have that.
Agenda, so I don't have that.
Yeah, I will make sure that I'll put them both to you. Okay. All right, we adjourning?
We are adjourned.
Thanks for the meeting.